know that the idea used by the villains in the Trolls movie and various details from the film actually happened in real life? Unfortunately, if you haven't watched Trolls yet, I have to say, you're gonna hear some spoilers now, but without too many film details. The plot revolves around locating Tronco's brother called Floyd, who was kidnapped by a pair of brothers, Velvet and Veneer, who absorb the power of the trolls to be able to sing, as they have horrible voices. Of course, in the real world, stealing voices is impossible, but pretending to sing is possible and quite common, and this has already happened to famous artists, and many people were absurdly deceived. This was the case of the German duo Milli and Vanilli in the late 80s, who actually only appeared on stage and danced while singers sang behind the curtains for them. The guys pretended so well that they even won a Grammy doing it, until the fraud was discovered in the middle of a show when the sound failed and the duo ran off the stage. Now tell me if that's not almost the same thing that happened in the movie, because that's exactly what the movie's writers thought when they created the Trolls 3 story, and I'll tell you, it turned out great. This is just one of the incredible details and references hidden in this movie. As we mentioned, the villains in the movie are the duo of brothers Velvet and Veneer. They are idols in the city of Mount Rageous, where they live and are admired by practically everyone. According to the director of the film, his inspiration for creating the characters was the divas of 90s music. In addition to the story we just mentioned, which may have served as inspiration, the clothes worn by the evil brother duo are also from that musical era. People used to wear extravagant hair and flashy, glittering clothing just like the film's villains. Although from time to time, we see contemporary singers using this more vintage musical fashion. Isn't that right, Lady Gaga? One of the highlights of the film is definitely the little tiny diamond who steals the scene when he's around. And when he's driving John Dory's vehicle, Tronco's brother Dory tells Tiny that he's free to press the button he was actually eager to press. At that moment, the vehicle seems to enter another dimension where the animation of the film and the characters completely change, becoming almost psychedelic. This is a reference to some old music videos by big bands that use these techniques to present their songs to the audience. And when I say old, it's really old, like the Beatles, the best-selling band in history, has some clips like that, and even a movie called Yellow Submarine, a 1.5-hour animation made in the same psychedelic animation style we see in Trolls 3 in this scene.
Oh hey, Tiny, you see that button right there? Oh, you mean the button that's taking every fiber of my being not to press? Press it. Oh!
You know what's even cooler? In this Beatles movie, a song called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is sung, and it's a song characterized as psychedelic rock, and its title matches one of the main characters of Trolls 3, the little tiny diamond, who is the son of Guy Diamond. In other words, the term diamond is present in all aspects in this wild moment of Trolls 3 where everyone is literally tripping. Here's a very interesting movie trivia. If you've watched any of the Trolls movies, you know that the franchise has a strong musical theme. And if you've at least watched the trailer for the third movie in the franchise, you saw that this movie is connected to the super famous boy bands that were very successful, especially in the late 90s and the 2000s, long before BTS existed. And the Brozone, the band of Tronco's brothers, of which he was a part, is exactly the essence of the references to these past boy bands. The interesting thing is that Justin Timberlake, the actor who originally voiced the character, did the exact same thing since he left his boy band NSYNC, one of the most famous in the world, to pursue his solo career, just like Tronco's brothers did with him. This was certainly a very cool coincidence.
Give it up for Rosa!
When Tronco's brothers leave him, his last brother tells him that they have now grown up and they only have one direction to go: the Backstreet. This is a clear reference to the most successful boy band of the 90s, called Backstreet Boys, which means exactly what Tronco's brothers said.
I quit. Branch, we're out of sync. We've gone from boys to men, and now there's only one direction for us to go: the Backstreets.
Bye. See you later.
Another cool detail in the film that few people know or notice is that the physical design of the villain duo Velvet and Veneer is inspired by the famous doll Bethy Spaghetti. Their thin, flexible arms and legs are simply identical to the models of the pre-adolescent doll and her friends, which was very popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, just like the boy bands that inspired the movie. The city of Mount Rageous is clearly inspired by Las Vegas, known as the city that never sleeps, where the biggest events and shows happen and the lights are always shining. The perfect place for those who want to have fans, which is exactly what motivates Velvet and Veneer to do their evil deeds against the little trolls, trapping them in glass bottles and stealing their powers. The scene in which Tronco jumps from the vehicle to attempt a risky maneuver while being tied by the waist with only a rope is inspired by the iconic scene from the first Mission Impossible movie, which is another valuable artifact from the late 90s, just like the boy bands that inspired the story and plot of the movie. Among the things that Velvet and Veneer have in their mansion, apart from trolls trapped to steal their powers, there is a reference to one of the greatest works of art of all time. We see a greenish version of the top part of Michelangelo's David statue, which is located in the gallery of the Academy of Fine Arts in Florence, Italy, and is recognized as probably the most beautiful sculpture in the world. Of course, the film version not only doesn't show the full body of the statue, but also makes David more stylish and rapper-like. Despite the fact that Brozone is inspired by 90s and 2000s boy bands, the truth is that the idea of a band made up of only family members is older than you might think, and this is the real inspiration for bands of siblings. While there are some examples of successful sibling bands like Hanson in the 90s and the Jonas Brothers in the 2000s and 2010s, the group that truly stood out in this regard was the Jackson 5. The group, which was formed by 5 brothers, as the name suggests, was the musical cradle of Michael Jackson, the eternal king of pop, who, despite all the controversies that surrounded him throughout his life, always had an exquisite voice and a sensational stage performance. And the moonwalk is there to prove it. Who knows, in an upcoming movie, we might see Tronco gaining even more prominence with a solo musical performance. But despite the Jackson 5 being the most prominent group, one of the most famous songs of one of the most successful brother groups of the 80s was used in a segment of the movie, the Bee Gees. When Dory and Spruce perform in a space to reminisce about the old times, Tronco joins them to form a trio of brothers, just like the Bee Gees, and they sing a medley with excerpts from several songs, and one of them is exactly Staying Alive by the Trio of Brothers. Great reference! One of Tronco's brothers who joins them first is Spruce, who is known for having a super-toned six-pack. But after he left the band and everyone abandoned little Tronco as a baby, he moved to a seaside town, and his appearance changed drastically after many years. This is a clear reference to dozens of actors and singers of enormous success who gained quite a bit of weight after their peak in fame, as was the case with Russell Crowe and Brendan Fraser, 2 icons of beauty and femininity in the 2000s who are now quite different. These were the 13 references and details we found to show you in Trolls 3, and this movie was a lot of fun and cool. And since we know you want to keep having fun, we've prepared 2 more videos for you to enjoy right now. Just a tip, the one on the right is really cool.